Right, today I'm going to do my chili. Now, there's lots of recipes of chilies for chili, mince, beef mince, and this is mine. I'm going to put the recipe below the YouTube so you can look at it. But just to run you through the products, I've made, was it 3 or 4 garlics, which I'm putting into a mini food processor. If you're on a boat or something, you'd use a hand chopper. Some ginger and 2 chilies, and that's going to be in there. But that's chopped. I've also got in here, I've got 1 teaspoon chili powder, 1 teaspoon of dried coriander, 2 teaspoons of curry powder. I'm going to have a heaped teaspoon of oregano. I've got chopped tomatoes. I've got red kidney beans, a tin. And I've got salt. And I've got Worcester sauce. And those are the ingredients. I've also got, and I'll show you now, 2 chopped onions. I'm using a Mr. D, only because I'm trying to make these videos as sort of like camping orientated and using stuff like things you get, low voltage things like a Ramoska and this sort of thing, because it doesn't use any electric or any gas. You just cook it to say 20 minutes, and then you put that into a thermal cooker and it cooks, and I'll show you that, but I've done it before. This goes very well, same recipe for slow cookers, pressure cookers, and the normal cooking would be about 40 minutes if you were just doing your normal chili. I mean, the beauty of doing it in a Mr. D is that you can cook it all day while you're sailing or camping, and then come back and you got yourself a hot meal. It can be tucked away anywhere, in a cupboard, wherever. Right, I also forgot to mention you should have about 6 mushrooms. These are optional, don't really need them. I like mushrooms in chili. And there's a pound of beef mince. And as you may be hearing, we'll move this around here. See the onions frying. I'm going to do these till they're soft, and then I'm going to add the chili, garlic and ginger, and fry them until the raw smell's gone. Then brown the meat. Right, I've now just added the garlic and ginger. It's just lightly browned, and of course by the time the garlic and ginger gets cooked, it'll get darker brown still, but not. You don't want it like a curry brown. You want it just lightly brown. I don't like it just soft, a bit more than soft, and not brown, dark brown, something like that. Quite an easy dish, really. There we go. Look at that. Film producers cry out. Right. As you can see that it's got a little bit darker brown. I'd say just twinges around the edge of the onion. And I should mention, I've mentioned it before in other videos, just a thimble full of water if you feel it's sticking to the bottom. But I wouldn't worry about things sticking to the bottom, because they come off when you add the cooking liquid. Now this chili recipe of mine doesn't require anything other than the liquid that comes from the meat and the liquid that comes from the tinned tomatoes. But because in a Mr. D or in a say pressure cooker or slow cooker, it requires liquid, you may wish to add. Now this is my recipe, but you know, you could add a couple of glasses of wine to it, let it reduce a little bit. You could add a little bit. I'm just going to add water, but anyway, we're reaching the point now where I'm going to put the mince. So the recipe actually doesn't have water in it, but you've got to look at how you're cooking it. I'll make a judgment a bit later on as to whether Mr. D requires it or not. Now I'm just going to put the meat in there. You saw that go in, and I'm going to spend a few minutes now browning it off. I had reduced the heat after I fried the onions, because I didn't want the garlic and ginger to just immediately burn. So anyway, I'll carry on doing that to get the meat brown, and then the rest of the ingredients I'll show you in a bit. Right, the mince is now browned, it's no longer red, and now I've got to add the rest. Now what I tend to do is that I showed you, didn't I, the garlic, the chili powder, the curry powder, the coriander. I like to make them into a kind of masala with a little bit of water, which I've done, and so I'm going to put that in there. Whoops. That's it. Some of you will enjoy that drop. Right, that's gone in, and now I'm going to add the tomato. I'll come back to this in a minute, because I need to see the cooking liquid, because in a Mr. D you've got to have as much, about 80%, so certainly over 50% of the pan full, so it cooks properly at the right temperature. Right, the next thing is I'm going to take this salt. As always with me, as you know, I like the palm method. Salt goes in, 1 teaspoon. Right, that's there, give that a stir. Now I'm going to take the oregano next, a teaspoon of that. Again, palm method's just as good. You can be liberal with that. You could use mixed herbs, you know, why not? Anyway, I like oregano in there. Then we got a tablespoon of tomato puree. So, gotta guess a tomato. That's nearly done. I think by the time I empty the whole lot in, that will be about a tablespoon. That's it. That's ready for throwing away. Now we take the Liam Perrins, and that's 2 tablespoons of Liam Perrins. 1. 2. That's Worcester sauce to you. Right. That's the fan stopped on the cooker hood. Right, that's all mixed in. Now we take the beans, which are kidney beans, which I've rinsed, and there they are, they're in there. Give that a good stir. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more liquid. I'll put it as water to taste, but what I'm going to use, that cup to put half a cup of water in. So that's that there. I don't want to waste it, so I've added water. That's at the end of that. That's been cleared. And then what I do is I take the can and just a little bit of water again, probably about half a cup again. Tiny little bit, you can see, half a cup. That's in there. Right, so that's used up the liquid. So now, as I say, in a normal cook you may not need this water, but in things that require liquid to cook in, like slow cookers and like pressure cookers, and you may need to be a bit more thing. I mean, if you had a bottle of red wine, you could take a glass of red wine and add that to it, and there you go. Chili, one thing about chili, it's very much make your own up. That's there and then. Now what I've got to do is to bring this up to a cooking temperature and then simmer it. So I've got to boil it and then simmer it for about 10 minutes and then put it in the pressure cooker. Now, but there's one thing I haven't put in yet, which I'll put in a minute, and that is the mushrooms. And the reason I haven't put the mushrooms in, the reason is I've not put the mushrooms in straight now, because I'd like to get it up to a cooking temperature first, sort of on the boil. and then put the mushrooms in, and then put it down to a simmer. Because the mushrooms will disappear and shrink a lot. But you can't be helped in this kind of cooking. But I think if you were doing a normal chilli on top of the stove, yeah, you could add the, why not, 10 minutes before the end. Add the mushrooms then to keep them as large as you can. But this sort of cooking, no, you've got to get it in. It's one pot cooking, and that's what you've got to do. Right, so I think that's simmering away now. So I'll take the mushrooms, which I've got here, and now bring it up to a cook it, simmer up for 15 minutes. But right, so here we go, up to boil, then simmer for 10-15 minutes, then into the Mr. D. Now, there is enough room for cooking rice in a Mr. D, but I'll think about that in the meantime. So bring it up, see how we go. And I'll come back to you. Right, I've now got this on the simmer. I was going to do, you see over there, the rice in the ramoska, but I haven't got it right, so I'm not going to bother with that today. I'll just finish it up in a normal way, doing the rice. Anyway, this is now going into the ramoska, into the Mr. D. As I say, that's it. It's off there. You've got to be very careful. Make sure that the handles are lined up. There's some slots in the side. Make sure they only should just shop very carefully down. Now this lid does move a bit, and I think it's essential that it's airtight. And so basically, you take, in this case, it's got a covering strap. If you've got one of the older versions, I suggest a brick or something heavy on top, and bring it on like that, and then basically pull it down tight, and that is now cooking for the rest of the day. So I'll put it on the floor out the way, and that's the chilli done. And I'll show you what it's like when it's cooked. Right, it's now been 4 or 5 hours, and it's been cooking in the Mr. D. A bit of flour there. Anyway, open it up. See the lid. Oh, it smells nice and it's hot. I'm going to just turn this off for a minute. There it is. I'll take a serving spoon, give it a stir. You can see that smells and looks delicious.